Hi, my name is Sarah Quinn, and thank you for joining us on this webinar. We will be discussing proposing new study abroad and domestic field study programs here at UGA. For those of you who are interested, this webinar is available via training and development, and it can count towards your global certificate program. So if you'd like more information about that, you can either check out our website or go to pep.uga.edu. So this webinar is designed for faculty and staff who would like to learn more about developing or participating in the development of study abroad and domestic field study programs here at UGA. It is also for those who want to become familiarized with the StudyAway portal, understand how to submit a new program proposal, and engage in the annual program planning process moving forward. Before we get started, I want to point everybody in the direction of the StudyAway portal, which I will be referencing throughout this webinar. Our StudyAway portal is our website, our homepage, which is located at studyaway.uga.edu. This is a screenshot of what you would see if you type in that URL. And this website has a lot of different serves a lot of different roles, has a lot of different functions. But the main thing to keep in mind is that it is a one-stop shop. So it is a place to get information, both for you and for students and for the general public in terms of figuring out where do our programs go, why might I want to go to UGA and study something there, what kind of programs are offered through UGA. It also offers a calendar, which you can see of upcoming events, whether related to specific programs or scholarships or other events that are happening on campus that are tangentially or directly related to StudyAway programs. And then on the upper left-hand side, there's a menu that can direct different types of viewers to different types of information. So general health and safety, there's definitely a tab for faculty, staff, and administrators, which includes a lot of helpful policies. And then a lot of information for students, including information about scholarships and information they can pass along to their parents as well. Some useful bits of information about the software that we use. It's called Teradata, and it is the premier study abroad, study away software that is used throughout the US. A lot of different universities and colleges will use this as a hosting platform. And here at UGA, we use it both for our website in general and for all operations associated with StudyAway programming. A big advantage to using this platform is that it interfaces with Banner. So there is a CAS login. You'll use your UGA MyID and password to access the website. And you will be able to get access to a lot of student information when they create applications. Our system will automatically pull some data fields and provide you with things like a student's GPA, a student's major, their involvement on campus, their anticipated graduation date, and more. So this is really helpful just in terms of understanding who's applying to your program, and also in terms of data collection and analysis that you might want to take part in over the years. To clarify, there are front-facing and back-facing aspects of the website. So for the general public, without signing in, you can get, as I was mentioning earlier, information about scholarships, different programs, health and safety. There's the calendar. And then a key access point would be the ability to create appointments with global education advisors. And this can be really important, especially as you're faced with questions from students about aspects of global education here at UGA in general, about scholarships, about other options for programs. Maybe they're looking at things external to UGA. And so we're really supposed to be resources both for you and for the students. And so if a student does want to make an appointment, they can do it through through the portal. There is also a significant back-facing part of the portal. This is where students can access and maintain their applications. They can submit things to different programs, including external documents like passports, passport scans, CVs, transcripts, things like that. As you all create programs, you will engage in the program planning process, which we'll get into a little bit later in this presentation. And then once you've created your programs, you actually manage all of the applicants within the system as well. So you are able to do management in batch, also student by student. And so there's really a lot of things you can do behind the scenes that not anybody who accessed the Study Away website would be able to see. So now that we've sort of set that foundational knowledge in terms of the Study Away portal, we're going to move forward to the main subject of today's webinar, which is developing and submitting a program proposal. And this graphic is intended to show the process as 5 different parts, which we will go over one by one. And so initially, you would complete a background questionnaire. The next step would be scheduling a meeting with the Director of Global Education. The third step would be to complete the faculty-led program proposal in the Study Away portal. The fourth step is that a committee will review your proposal, your submitted documents, and make a decision about your proposal. And then in general, a program will move towards approval, and then your annual program planning documents should be submitted. And so this is a snapshot into how a proposal gets reviewed, created, and approved. There are a lot of things that can happen after step 5, but we have developed a webinar that's called Tips for Managing Study Away Programs that will really hone in on best practices for moving forward after your program proposal has been approved. So we recommend checking that out if you want to dig into, well, what happens in life after a program proposal is approved. So the first step that was outlined is completing the background questionnaire. So this can be accessed through the Study Away portal. So you can go to and this is just on the homepage, studyaway.uga.edu. There is on the upper left, the Faculty, Staff, and Administrators tab, which you can hover over. A drop-down menu will provide you with the second option of proposing a new program. And then hovering over that, you'll get the option to submit a new proposal. And if you click on that, you will get this link to a form site that you can access. And it's going to ask you some basic background information about your program idea. And we've divided up the main categories of the questions that the background questionnaire will ask, outlined on this slide. But the thing to keep in mind when you're filling out this background questionnaire is that it really doesn't have to be comprehensively completed at this point. The purpose of the background questionnaire is to prompt your thinking about your program, to condition you to start thinking about different aspects, to prepare you for some of the questions that will be asked along the way that you'll need to figure out at some point. But again, think of it as a prompt more than something that has to be exhaustively completed at this point. And so some general things for that we're hoping you begin thinking about at this point are the academics, the financial aspects of the program, and then thinking about risk management. So specifically on this background questionnaire, we're going to be asking you questions about, at the very basic level, what subject are you hoping to teach? What academic courses? What type of program are you thinking about? Is it going to be semester long? Is it going to be a shorter term program like a winter break, spring break, Maymester, or summer? Is it possibly an embedded course, which is a spring break course that's 1 credit embedded within a longer term entire spring semester course? How many credit hours are you thinking of offering? Who is going to be teaching? Is it going to be you? Is it going to be you and a fellow faculty member at UGA? Is it going to be somebody outside of UGA? Are you proposing this questionnaire for somebody else entirely? And then what other programs are offered by UGA in this academic area? So something that's very important for us is making sure that we are not creating internal competition for programs. So if there already is a program that exists with the academic credit in a certain location, we would want you to consider a different location. If by chance there was another program offered in the same location, but you're offering a completely different academic experience, that's okay. So again, just prompting you to begin thinking through the possibilities of the academics of the program. In terms of finances, we really don't ask you to develop a detailed budget at this point, but we want you to start thinking through some of the considerations that might add to or detract from the total cost. So that would go back to how long is the program going to be? Where is it going? What type of students are you trying to appeal to? And then for risk management purposes, at this point, we're really just honing in on the location and what kind of accommodations are available for the students, what level travel advisory is this particular location. Most of our programs tend to be proposed in level 1 or level 2 travel advisory locations, and you can check this out just by going to the US State Department website. But where things can get a little bit more complex is if you are going to a country that's level 2, but perhaps there are level 3 or level 4 destinations within that country. And so really we want to prime you to think about this as not necessarily a deterrent, but just the fact that you are going to have to provide additional risk management measures. It could be risk management plans. It could be working with a program provider to figure out, different strategies on the ground for staying in touch or communicating different things to students about where they can and cannot go. So anyway, again, if you would like to avoid that complexity, we might be able to suggest other places for you to go. But in general, we just want to hear at this point, what are your broad sweeping ideas of what you're wanting to propose? So once you submit that form site, it will be sent or once you submit that form site form, it will be sent to several different people in our office, and somebody will reach out to you regarding scheduling that appointment. The main person you'll be meeting with at that meeting is the Director of Global Education, and you'll also be meeting with the Director of Study Away Finance in our business office, and then usually a coordinator of faculty-led programs as well. And so you don't really need to do anything in terms of getting that meeting scheduled, but you are welcome to include additional stakeholders from your program or your department or anybody else who you think should be at that initial meeting to discuss the program development of your proposed program. And so this usually takes about an hour, and the purpose of this meeting is to discuss the rationale for the program and its benefits to the academic unit and to UGA. So that really goes back to some of the academic pieces that we'd be asking for in the form site. Maybe answer any questions that the faculty or the staff have regarding any of the specific time constraints or how the credits go back to a particular unit, how it fits into a unit's larger strategic plan. All of that gets folded into this discussion. We'll also evaluate the viability of the proposed program and how it will fit among the existing program offerings at UGA. At this point, UGA has a significant amount of faculty-led programs spanning almost all continents and spanning a lot of different subject areas. So when faculty come to us in this initial meeting, OGE is really trying to prompt the proposing faculty to think about how a new program could potentially plug some of the holes that we have in our program offerings. Whether that means going to a new location that might be strategic, maybe there is more scholarship money available in certain areas, maybe it's offering a specific type of experience that our students are consistently asking for, but that we don't currently support or have enough options to support the demand. Maybe it's just offering a class abroad that is not currently offered. And so we'll see what type of flexibility is available on the part of the faculty member, on the part of the academic unit. And again, making sure that it's not duplicating existing efforts unless there is such a significant student demand that we need to develop a second or a third program in that area. In terms of viability, we also want to make sure that there is going to be a long-term plan of sustainability for the program. This is something that's important to us because it's very difficult to offer programs that don't run every year at the University of Georgia. There's so much work that goes into the program planning process that it almost becomes not worth a faculty member or department's time to put all the time and energy into something that won't run from year to year. In addition, from a recruitment standpoint, you lose a significant amount of momentum when your program is not running every year. Student word of mouth is one of the most effective ways to recruit students for your program. And so if it's stopping and starting, running every other year, running every 2 or 3 years, running whenever faculty can run it, there's just a lot of missed opportunities in terms of capitalizing on the excitement of the return students. And then also, I think it should be mentioned that there is a lot of institutional knowledge that is lost when a program director doesn't stay very long. And you almost feel like you have to go back and recreate the wheel every time you want to run the program, because so much can change from year to year, whether it's the bureaucratic processes of UGA, whether it's the situation on the ground in the country that you're trying to take students to, whether it's the program provider that you're trying to work with. So in general, we like to see a commitment to at least 2 or 3 years with the potential to continue the program even afterwards, but maybe with a different person, and then thinking through how will we transition that person into the program. We'll also definitely bring up the academic and financial management of the proposed program. We like to be very transparent about the amount of time and energy that it takes, not only on the program director's part, but also on the part of their support staff. So this might include a business manager, this might include a department's course scheduler. There's a lot of different people that work together to make programs run, and so we want to make sure that it's all laid out on the table so that nobody's surprised by the commitments in terms of time and energy that have to be made for the success of the program. And then the last point, as I mentioned in the previous slide, discussing the safety and stability of the area in which the program is proposed to be located. And so you can click on those links there to get those official State Department travel warnings and country-specific information sections in advance of the meeting, or even during the meeting. We're happy to go over those together in case you need assistance with that website. And then, of course, we're happy to answer any other questions that you may have. We're happy to really speak to anything that you're wondering about in relationship to running a program, what that looks like, what's expected of you, what we've learned from other programs that might be similar to yours. Really, this is intended to be most useful for the person who is envisioning running a program, and that we're helping you to solidify your program idea before moving into the next step. And so that next step is completing the faculty-led program proposal in the StudyAway portal. So the way to access this template is by going to the StudyAway website, so studyaway.uga.edu, clicking on the Faculty, Staff, and Administrators tab on the left-hand side, hovering over Proposing a New Program, and then going to Submitting a New Proposal. So the website's going to ask you to log in using your UGA MyID and password. And then it is possible that, maybe the term that you're looking to propose a program for isn't available, or, something comes up at this point. We get a lot of questions. And so I'm preemptively trying to I'm trying to prime you for that expectation. But if you do have any questions or run into any issues, you can email studyaway at uga.edu, and we can help you through that or activate a certain cycle. Or at the end of the day, we're happy to open up a proposal for you, and then you can go in and access it later. But this is essentially what you're going to see pop up. There are two types of ways that we're going to ask you for information. There are the application questionnaires, which are text fields and drop-down menus. So you're just entering in and selecting different sources of information. And then for the material submissions, we will be asking you to upload several different external documents. Some of them do have templates that we provide for you. If we do provide you with a template, we really, really encourage you to use it because it's easier for everybody when all of the information is set up in the way that we need it to be set up. And so quickly running through that, the academic information upload is a template that is developed by Curriculum Systems and is reviewed by Curriculum Systems. And the purpose of this is to really hone in on what does it look like day to day in terms of the academics of your program. So you're identifying what activities you're doing, whether or not they're contributing to your contact hours, and whether or not they're contributing to field work. And there is a formula provided on that spreadsheet to calculate what the total amount of contact hours is, because you need to make sure for each of the credit hours you're offering that you reach a certain amount of contact hours. So you need to download that template. You can do it by clicking the academic information upload hyperlink right there. A little pop-up box will appear and you'll just select whatever academic template fits with the length of your program. There are also step-by-step instructions available in that pop-up box, so feel free to spend some time reading through it. The second thing that will prompt you for a template is the budget upload. It's number 3. And this is a really, really critical template to follow closely because there are a lot of different formulas in here. And so you want to make sure that you are completing everything in its entirety because, for example, at the very top, you're being asked to identify the minimum enrollment of the program. And so once you fill in this number, it will auto-populate in many other parts of the budget template, and it will make for a much easier time calculating the program fee and understanding how much each student is going to pay. If you have any questions about this budget template or the finances in general, I highly recommend you work closely with our UGA Study Abroad finance office. So that is, their email is UGA-SABO, S-A-B-O, at uga.edu. And they can walk you through this because it is a very unique document, but it's very, very critical that the different categories of instructional versus non-instructional expenses are followed so that we get the correct amount that the students will be billed in accordance to University System of Georgia guidelines. So again, if you have any questions about that one, please email UGA-SABO at uga.edu for more information. And then number 5 is the last material submission that has a set template. This is a really critical piece as well because this form is essentially providing documentation that a proposing faculty member's program is supported on the department level and on the college level. And so it requires several rounds of signatures. It does require the program proposal to be brought forth in a faculty meeting. Whatever that looks like for your particular unit is fine. We get a lot of questions because this particular form may or may not be pertinent to different units on college, on campus. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. But what is critical is that this is completed and signed in its entirety before your proposal is reviewed. And I will note here, for those of you who are interested in proposing a program and you are in the Franklin College of Arts and Sciences, they have a special study abroad committee that meets only several times a year. And so it's very important to start a conversation with them early about when you need to have everything completed by for a review of that committee, because our committee won't be able to review it until their committee has reviewed and signed off on it. So with Franklin especially, but really with everybody, it's a best practice to start early and to kind of figure out what that level of support is that you'll need for your particular unit, for your particular department, and for your particular college. Now, I skipped over number 2 and 4 because those do not have set templates that we require. For syllabi, that's clearly up to you or the program director in terms of what a syllabus for your academic offerings will look like. I will say that if you are offering more than one course, you will need more than one syllabus. And this is going to be reviewed by Curriculum Systems, so they'll reach out to you directly with any questions. Number 4 is initial program travel itinerary upload. Many people will ask how specific this needs to be, and really at the end of the day, there's only a few items that we need for this. It can be as simple as the dates that you will be on your program, the locations for each of those dates, and by locations, it can be determined as where are you spending the night that night, and then a very simple description of what activities you're doing that day. And the reason why we ask for this, understanding that it is subject to change, is that not only do we want to see an overview of what does the program look like, but in terms of risk management, it's really critical for us to have this piece, because we will enter in all of your different destinations into our Teradata system. And all of your applicants will get those different locations entered into their records. And so on any given day, we'll know that all of the people in this particular program are going to be in Paris. And when we look further at the travel itinerary, we'll see that you are at the Louvre specifically on this day. And so if for some, on the off chance that something happened, we like say a terrorist attack happened in a site in Paris, we would be able to look up in our system where are all of the students who are currently in Paris, and then we would be able to get a micro look at, well, where are they within Paris? And then we can kind of move forward accordingly. So at the proposal process, this does not have to be super specific, but it is helpful if it's as specific as you can make it, because then there are fewer adjustments that will need to be made down the road when we ask you to submit an updated and final travel itinerary. But as I mentioned, there is no template for this. A Word document is fine, an Excel spreadsheet's fine. And if you do have any questions about, what's an appropriate level of detail for this, we're happy to provide you with some examples. And then the application questionnaires that I mentioned earlier are pretty self-explanatory. They're just asking for a ton of details about different aspects of the program. And if you feel like you haven't explored a certain prompt at this point, that's fine, but we would ask for everything to be completed by the time the proposal's due. One last note about this part, or about the program proposal, is that when you complete an application questionnaire, you have the option at the bottom to either save or submit. As is probably logical, if you save it, you can go back and edit it. But once you hit submit, it will no longer be editable by you. We're always happy to go in and edit things for you or unsubmit it so that you can go back and access it. But just to clarify that once you submit it, you will not be able to change anything. When you do hit that submit button, there will be a check mark that automatically gets placed in the received box next to the questionnaire that you completed or that you submitted. And so an indication to you that you have successfully completed an application or a questionnaire is that the received box will be checked off. It is not like that with the material submissions. Somebody needs to go in and review each of your material submissions. So those will be marked off by someone in our office on a case-by-case basis, really depending on how close you are to the deadline is how often we go in and check for different items. So if you need something to be reviewed, we're happy to do it. Just send us a heads up email at studyaway.uga.edu, or excuse me, at studyaway@uga.edu. But again, we'll go in eventually and check them off. But if it's getting close to the date when you need everything to be submitted, we're happy to go in and look at something for you. So this just quickly summarizes what I've already been talking about with those questionnaires and material submissions. The last line, the learning content, is something that I didn't go over. This is an additional screen that's on your program proposal, and these are not mandatory for you to complete as part of your proposal, but they are suggested. And essentially, they are short modules or short documents that will walk you through different aspects of the Study Away portal or the program proposal itself. Similarly to the questionnaires, these are text fields or electronic signature documents, and so they will automatically check off as received when you submit them. This goes into that supporting signatures form specifically. So just to reiterate, this does need to go through at least a faculty meeting and then get signed off by the college. If your college has a study abroad committee, then it would need to be signed off by that committee as well. If your college doesn't, that's fine. Whatever the equivalent is, you can have them sign off on it. Additionally, we should specify that a signature on this document does indicate that you understand the academic, risk management, and financial components and obligations of the program. So it is with significant weight that people take these supporting signatures forms into consideration. We do recommend that when you have this form presented, whether it's to an individual or whether it's at the faculty meeting, that you provide them with your completed proposal. So even though this is one of the last things to complete, it should also be done early, since the supporting signatures form can sometimes take a while, or it's dependent on the schedule of a committee or an individual. So work on everything. If you need us to PDF and download your application, we're happy to do that. We've done that before for many people. So just reach out if that's a necessity for you. And just to underscore, we recommend working on this sooner rather than later. We've heard anecdotally that the agendas in a lot of faculty meetings fill up really quickly. So in order to get a timely approval and move your proposal forward, it is imperative that you check in early to see when you can get in on that meeting. Okay, so once you have completed the proposal, the next step is that our committee is going to review the proposal. And I will say, sort of anticlimactically, there is no final submit button on your proposal. You just want to make sure that all of those boxes are checked off next to the questionnaires and the materials. And then we will communicate deadlines to you all in terms of when the committee is going to meet, and then usually we'll go ahead and ask for the proposals to be submitted about a week in advance of those committee meetings. So those meetings take place twice a year. Usually they meet once in the fall, usually around September or October, and then also once in the spring, usually falling in April. These dates are not widely advertised. We tend to just communicate them to whoever has expressed interest in developing a proposal at that point. Whether that is as anecdotal and as informal as we've had a conversation over the phone, or whether it's as official as I've started a proposal, I've filled out the background questionnaire, things like that. So we keep everybody who's reached out to us in any capacity in an internal spreadsheet, and then we will email you numerous times to let you know once we've scheduled those meetings, and then once the dates are set for you to submit all of your documentation. The committee is made up of several different people from across campus, lots of different perspectives being represented. So we have somebody from the Office of Emergency Preparedness who reviews the risk management components. We have someone from the OGE Steady Away Finance Office to assess a program proposal for its financial viability. And then we have several members of, well, we have someone from Curriculum Systems to look specifically at the academics of the program. And then we have 2 faculty members to review sort of the holistic program proposals from a faculty standpoint. And then, of course, the Director of Global Education is present, as well as the faculty-led program coordinator. So this group of individuals reviews the programs for academic, financial, and risk management components. I would say in general, the committee is going to ask for additional documentation to be submitted for some aspect of the program. It's very rare when a proposal is submitted and is ready to run as it's being proposed. I say this because it should just be an expectation that additional documentation will be asked for. It could be anything ranging from, maybe you need to revisit something on your proposed itinerary because it seems like there's a heavy emphasis on cultural activities and we'd like to see more academic opportunities. It could be something like, in terms of a destination, maybe we want to see a bit more information about how a program director is going to prepare students for the fact that, petty theft is very prominent in this particular location. And so it's very, very dependent on the state of the proposal as submitted, but we will reach out to you immediately following the committee review meeting and ask for that documentation to be submitted, usually within about 2 weeks. I do want to emphasize that the purpose of this committee review is not to prevent programs from running. Really, it is intended to work with whoever is proposing the program to make sure that all of those aspects we mentioned, academics, financials, and risk managements, are viable and meeting USG guidelines, but also just industry best practices. So if that means that we're going to have to ask for a revamp in some area, that's just the nature of it. But really, we're not going to deny somebody the ability to run a program unless there is a significant structural issue that needs to be revisited and resubmitted. So then the final step is that your proposal is approved and then program planning documents need to be submitted. So when a program proposal is approved, what the process looks like is that your supporting signatures documents that you signed with your unit approval and your college approval, those get signed by the Director of Education, Global Education, and then they get signed by the Associate Provost for Global Engagement. Once those are signed, we do prepare an official letter that says your program has been approved, and we send both the letter and the signed supporting signatures documents to both the proposing individual and then also the college dean and anyone else of relevant leadership within your unit or within your college. Maybe you have an associate dean who oversees experiential learning or study abroad opportunities, so that person is usually copied as well. We'll mark you in the Study Away portal as OGE approved which means that, you know, you have successfully been approved in the system. We'll usually also upload a scan of that approval letter in addition to the supporting signatures document and put that in the portal as well with your proposal. We will then move forward to the annual program planning process, which feels a bit redundant, but it's critical because usually programs are proposed about 18 months prior to running. And so as you can imagine, a lot of things change between an initial proposal and the program actually getting firmed up to run. And so this is sort of a safety that's in place to make sure that all of the documents submitted for the proposal are still relevant. And so we'll ask you to complete the annual program planning process, which is essentially a watered down version of the proposal that you filled out. So there's academic, risk management, and financial components, as there are with the proposal itself, but it's just more straightforward. It's less, you know, what are the grand overarching objectives of this program, and more of where are you staying, who are the doctors that are in that area, things like that. There are a couple of templates that you can copy over from your proposal if they're still relevant. For example, supporting signatures are not going to change. Maybe your academic itinerary is going to stay the same. The syllabi are going to stay the same. So a lot of those materials can be copied over. And then even if, you know, the questionnaires that you submitted are still relevant, you can feel free to copy those over as well. We do want to emphasize that this is a process that is going to occur annually. So every year that you run your program, even if nothing changes, we do require you to resubmit documents for the program to make sure that it's in compliance with all of our academic, financial, and risk management protocols, guidelines, and best practices. There is unfortunately, no straightforward mechanism in place for automatically copying over data from year to year, but it can be manually copied, and we're happy to assist with that. We do want to emphasize that very similarly to the program proposal process, this annual program planning process is not in place to deny somebody the opportunity to run their program. It's only to ensure that all of those different components of the program are up to date. And so with that being said, you can and you should simultaneously be recruiting students while completing this process. So that means opening up student applications, managing those applicants, hosting events, going to the Study Away Fair, attending the Global Open House, all of those things that are the best practices for recruiting and retaining students. You can, of course, caveat things by saying, you know, the program fee that I'm quoting you is based off of last year. It could change slightly, you know, things like that, to make sure that students understand that maybe the details aren't all finalized. Maybe, you know, you aren't entirely sure if you'll be spending 3 or 4 days in a certain city, but you're able to speak to the bigger picture of a program and recruit students based off of that. So this is what the annual program planning process requires. As I mentioned, it's sort of a pared down version of what we ask for in the proposal. So general program information, several different types of destination details, identifying whether or not you want petty cash, and then identifying what academic courses are offered on the program. So these are those application questionnaires, they're text fields and drop-down menus, and we'll check off as received once you have submitted them. The material submissions are, I think, exactly the same as in the proposal, except we've added in one field, which is the previous year's actuals. This, of course, won't be relevant to you the first year you're running the program, but every subsequent year, we will ask you to close out the budget from your previous year and then upload that documentation to the portal so that we understand how much, if if any, we need to refund your students, because we don't make money off of these programs. So if you've over budgeted and say you had $300 left over per student, the students would actually get that money refunded to their student account. But the only way that we can refund students is if the previous year's actuals are submitted. So very, very critical to get those items in on time. So as you have probably gleaned from this webinar, the StudyWay portal has a lot of ins and outs, and there are different aspects that we didn't really dive into in this webinar, such as applicant management. And so one of the things that we do require is a StudyWay portal training. And so this can either be accomplished by setting up a meeting with our database manager, or you can sign up for a training and development session that is called StudyWay Portal 101, and you'll receive some of the basics of how to navigate the portal, how to do things like complete the annual program planning process, how to update your program brochure, how to manage applicants, how to send mass emails, how to batch edit your applicants, things like that. So if you'd like to go ahead and set up a meeting to learn about the portal, you can do so at studyway.help@uga.edu. We are also happy to provide refresher trainings at any point. We understand that people really only tend to access this portal, once per year when they're completing the program planning documents and then managing the applicants from year to year. So we're happy to do those refreshers as they become necessary. We also encourage you to think of this as a team exercise. So thinking about getting program co-directors involved, if you have any, getting your business managers trained, involving graduate assistants, student workers, or anybody else who will be a person of authority on the program or wants to have a role in applicant management. This really enables you to share the workload and to make sure that nobody gets burned out, and that everything is managed in a timely and effective manner. So after you receive this training, or a member of your team receive this training, we'll provide you with permission to access your program brochure and applicants to your program. You do not need this training to complete the annual program planning process or to submit a proposal in the portal. But in order to basically do anything related to students, or to have the power to edit anything that's on the public-facing side of the website, you would definitely need training in order to do that. And then we'll facilitate getting those permissions approved for you. Please do keep in mind that you need to remain FERPA compliant to FERPA compliant, not complaint, to maintain access to the system. And this is something that our office takes really seriously, and will run annual progress audits to identify who is not FERPA compliant. And so if you need any refreshers on how to do that, keep an eye out for the FACSA-L, because we'll usually send reminders starting around September, August and September, to encourage you to refresh your compliance. But if you do have any questions, or if you get removed and you needed to be put back in, just let us know at studyway.help@uga.edu. So something that I just mentioned to get into a little bit more detail, I mentioned the program brochure. And this is something that you will not gain access to until you get that StudyWay training. A program brochure is basically the official page for your program. It is searchable by anybody with access to the internet, and it's on the public-facing side of the website. This is intended to provide students with some basic information about the program, and it's really important to clarify that at this point, there is no automatic transfer of information from the program planning or the program proposal that you do and this program brochure. So you have to go and fill in all of the information and specify anything that has already been explained in the program planning or in the program proposal. So some of the things that you will want to provide in the brochure include the location of the program, what type of course credit and how much course credit a student would get by participating in the program, a basic itinerary for your program, so what days you'll be gone, where you'll be going, maybe even some basic information about what you'll be doing those days. Talking about what kind of accommodations students will have and what type of meals they'll have. As somebody who advises students, I can say anecdotally, this is something that can make or break experiences that students are interested in. For example, certain students seek out host families and other students totally avoid host families. So if that is a component of your program, you should be very, very upfront about it, and maybe even talk about the selection process that goes into determining host families, and also the benefits of host families, things like that. And then if you're going to a place that has maybe limited variety in types of food, maybe you're going to a meat-heavy country, or a, maybe a country where veggies are more common, or the meal that's going to be served at breakfast, lunch, and dinner every day is very similar, you would want to go ahead and just, let the students know. And this can always be framed in a really positive way about experiencing the culture, but also being informative about what the student is getting into. Because really, some of the students just don't think about these practicalities when they're choosing a program. You also want to be very clear about student eligibility on this program brochure. So if your program's open to everybody, make that bold on this program brochure. Make sure that every single person knows that they can participate and that they will get whatever credit in the program. And maybe it counts towards something specific, like an upper level elective, or your experiential learning requirement, or your world language and humanities credit. So definitely have that as something up top on the program brochure, because it's something that a lot of students will look for. Additionally, if your program is more selective, maybe it's only open to a certain type of major, maybe you have to have a prerequisite. Be very clear about that so that you don't have to spend time going through applicants and selecting out students that don't even qualify for your program. Something else that we really, really want to be clear about are the program costs. And I'll go into our cost of attendance sheet in a second, and you can see how that's broken down. And then also contact information for you, or for the program director, or for whoever you want students talking to about the program if they have questions. We see some programs even utilizing student alumni from past programs. So once you've run the program 1 year and you had some standout students who had a positive experience and you want them to be representatives for the program, of course, ask them for permission first, but you could include their contact information as people who prospective students could reach out to with questions. And then I also do want to emphasize that not only is this a place for official information about your program, but it is also the place where students will apply. So if applications are open, students will click on the Apply Now button and it will generate an application for them. One other thing I do want to note is that a lot of programs will also have maybe a website on a departmental page, or an external website, or social media platform like Instagram or Facebook. Please make sure that all of your platforms, whether external websites or social media or anything like that, please make sure that they are all consistent, communicating consistent information. The program brochure is your official UGA program platform. Even if you have a departmental website, all programs have to go through here. All student applicants need to go through here. So just make sure that everything's consistent, everything's professional. So I just mentioned the cost of attendance sheet, and this is something that is very critical for each program, and it does need to be kept as updated as possible for students. It does provide students with a detailed breakdown of program costs, and it also helps show students what expenses are billable to the UGA student account, versus what is coming out of a student's pocket. We like breaking things down like this because it really allows for students to budget for the entire cost of their trip rather than just a portion of the program. We say this because a lot of students still conflate the program fee or the total cost of the program with tuition. And so you hear a lot of students say, well, I have Hope, I have Zell, so this is going to be free for me, which is a very, very inaccurate statement and can cause a lot of issues down the road. I say this because in general, there are three main costs associated with study abroad, and these are not even, in most cases, comprehensive. So the first big cost is the program fee, which you can see right here. This includes, for this particular program, or represents accommodations, group transportation, group meals, excursions, anything that is directly related to the cost of the student being on this program. In addition to that, the second thing that you really want to think about is the tuition, and that's represented there. Tuition is going to be dependent on how many credits a student is earning on the program. And of course, this can be subsidized by Hope, it can be subsidized by Zell, it can be subsidized by Pell, but for some students, it's not subsidized. And so in that case, this should be something that is communicated to every student, that tuition is oftentimes a separate cost of the program. I do want to say quickly that out-of-state students receive in-state tuition for most of our study away programs, definitely for all of our study abroad programs, and for most of our domestic field studies. If a program takes place entirely in the state of Georgia, students will pay their typical out-of-state tuition rates. But other than that, they should be paying in-state rates for every study away program. So we've mentioned program fee, we've mentioned tuition, and then the third cost is the airfare, or how are you going to get there? Maybe for some of our field study programs, it's not round-trip airfare, but maybe it's a cost that they pay for a bus or a train or something like that. But for our study abroad programs, this is a significant cost. So with those big price points, that really paints the picture of what what a good chunk of a study away program will cost. However, that's not it. So what you see here is how we break down the cost of attendance sheet, which is oftentimes not straightforward to students. So we've broken it down into two columns. We have our cost for in-state students and our cost for out-of-state students. And this particular snapshot is actually outdated because there's this extra fee listed here for out-of-state students. At this point, as of 2019 moving forward, or I should say as of November 2019 moving forward, the Board of Regents has actually removed this fee. So all in-state students pay the exact same as out-of-state students. So if a student's looking at this column versus this column, they should be virtually identical. So it's further divided by items billable to a student account and then non-billable student account items. So up here with what's going to be billed to a student account, the big thing is this program fee and the tuition, which, as we mentioned, could possibly be subsidized by Hope or Zell or Pell. And then we also have some institutional fees. These are standard across all UGA study away programs. And so down here, what you get is what is the upper limit of what could be billed to a student's student account. So they would pay this via Athena, and they would be paying this on a date determined by the bursar's office. So this isn't even something that's determined by OGE or by an individual program director. Everything just goes through the bursar's office. So that's one part of the cost. And then you move down here, and these are all estimated additional costs that could be associated with a study abroad program. And so you can see that this program has suggested maybe putting $100 aside for books and supplies. They're estimating the upper limit of what a student might pay for airfare to this particular location to be $1,500. This can clearly, go down based on a student's frequent flyer miles, or even potentially finding a cheaper flight with a Skyscanner app. So this can go down as well. They specify that there's no application fee, that there's no additional cost for study abroad insurance because that's all included in this program fee. They specify that there's no money needed for a visa, which is really helpful to know. This is significant that there's estimated costs of meals not included in the program fee. So $1,300 for a Maymester is a lot of money for food, and that's suggesting to me that maybe only 1 or 2 meals are covered in this program fee. But of course, a student, this cost can be adjusted based on a student's personal habits. So if a student wants to eat out every meal, yeah, $1,300 might be accurate. However, if a student is comfortable maybe grabbing a sandwich or even cooking for themselves, if that's an option, this could be driven down as well. It looks like all of their local transportation is going to be covered. Their housing is going to be covered by that program fee that they're paying. Personal living expenses. So this represents like if you want to buy some souvenirs, or if you want to do something like an excursion that's cultural that's not part of the program. They're estimating that students only need about $225 for that. They're also saying that if you don't have a passport, that's $135 to budget. If you do have a passport, that's $135 you don't need to worry about. And then down here is the program deposit. And I do want to spend a bit of time on this, just so that everybody's clear and it can be clearly communicated to students. When you are calculating the total program fee in your budget that you turn in the program planning documents, you will get a total. And for this program, it's $3,500. And then what you do is you take, depending on the program, a small amount of that program fee, and you ask for it to be paid up front as a program deposit. So for most of our short-term study abroad programs, the deposit is $300. So this is not extra money. It's actually just from the total program fee, but it's being asked to be paid up front. And the reason why it's not listed up here is because it's not billable to the student account. It's actually just being paid via the Study Away portal instead. So I like to clarify all of that so that students understand we're not trying to double bill them or anything like that. And so down here, the subtotal of all of these additional costs is $3,560. Again, that's an upper limit of what a student may pay, but it can clearly decrease based on, going through here and saying, I really don't need that much money for meals. I can find a better plane ticket cost, and I already have my passport. So you could bring that down a lot. And then this is the estimated total. So adding together the billable and non-billable subtotals to get this, again, upper limit of what you could possibly be paying to participate in this program. So as you can see, as a program director, it's very, very important to be as detailed as possible on this cost of attendance sheet, because not only is a student using this to kind of budget their money and maybe even justify to parents why a study abroad is really important or potentially accessible to them. It's also the official document that would be used for students if they're applying to scholarships and justifying their financial need, or if they go to the Office of Student Financial Aid and ask for an increase in their loans for a semester. So bottom line, keep this as updated as possible. We would prefer that you round up with your prices. It's always better to come down than to go up, especially in the program fee. If there are any special exceptions for your program, like for example, you are doing a spring break program and due to the constrained limits of your program, you have included a flight in the program fee, please make use of the notes section below and specify that. Or if maybe if there's something else, I'm struggling to think of an example, but if there's something else that falls outside of like this represents a pretty typical program. If there's something that doesn't align with your particular program that you see here, please make a note of that so that students are aware of it. And I've mentioned a lot of this already. The three general costs to communicate to students are that program fee, the tuition, and the airplane ticket. Hope, Zell, and Pell do all apply to tuition abroad in the same way that they apply to tuition here on campus. My big suggestion, if students are asking specific questions, is to send them to the Office of Student Financial Aid, because they can access the students' financial records and give them a very accurate breakdown of what they will be receiving on a certain program. Out-of-state students do receive that in-state tuition rates for pretty much any Steady Away program except those that never leave the state of Georgia. And then we would also encourage program directors to have a basic knowledge about scholarships and deadlines, and then refer students to our office if they need more ideas. So the OGE General and the Experiential Learning Scholarship are open to any student who is doing a Steady Away opportunity, whether domestic or abroad, and both of those have October and February deadlines. So if you have a student with high financial need, please refer them to the October deadline, because then they'll find out earlier whether or not they've gotten the scholarship money. There's also a scholarship, a national scholarship called Gilman, that's specific for Pell Grant recipients. There's a new scholarship called the Gilman McCain Scholarship that's available for students who have active duty military service members for parents and are on some sort of a federal loan or grant. And then the Asia Georgia Connection Scholarship is for students who are studying abroad, or interning for credit in an Asian country for 4 or more weeks. So I use those last few examples to illustrate that there is a lot of money out there in scholarships. If you're encountering a student who needs money, send them to our office. We're happy to point them in the direction of these scholarships. But also, as you're thinking about your program proposal, maybe looking into some of these scholarships and seeing what makes an applicant more competitive could be really helpful if you form a program around that. So that all of your students are going to qualify for a specific scholarship. We've had some programs do that and have seen them be really successful. To go over really quickly some basic student recruitment and applicant management points, we do have an entire webinar that goes over these in detail, but we do encourage all of our program directors to be involved in our Steady Away fairs. We have a large one in fall that sees about 2,000 undergraduate students over the course of 2 days. And then we have a smaller one in spring that sees about 500 to 800 students. We also do classroom presentations. We're happy to come speak for as short as 10 minutes, as long as you want us to, and we can tailor them to your students' interests. We also encourage you all to set up interest meetings for students, especially if your program is new, to use social media to get the word out about your program. Feel free to send us things to post on our office's social media, to use the CISA-L listserv, which is students interested in studying abroad. This listserv is run through our office and is sent out weekly. So if you have any announcements or just want to make people aware of your program, this is a great way to do it. And then we're also happy to help with targeted emails, which means that we pull class lists off of Banner and send emails about your program to students in related disciplines that you think might be interested in your particular program. This last option is very time intensive, so we do try and save it for programs that are really struggling, but we really are happy to do it if you are worried about meeting your program's minimum enrollment. And then for applicant management, this involves a lot of time on the program director's part, checking for submitted materials like passport uploads, updating your student statuses, checking that they've made program deposits, and much more. So for more information, please keep an eye out for our training and development sessions, or just contact steadyaway.help@uga.edu. And then the last point is that we do require attendance in our risk management training workshop. This is offered twice every semester. In person, it's about 4 to 5 hours, but we do want to say that it's very extensive in the materials covered. I will say that people who attend it find it very useful. It can be completed online or in person. And if you are doing this as a returner, so say you've run your program for 1 year or more, you only have to watch the refresher risk management, which is about 2 hours. And that can be viewed online or in person as well. So we do want to emphasize this is required annually of all program directors and then faculty and staff who will be directly associated with your program. And all the dates that happen in the fall and in the spring will be announced via the FACSA-L listserv. So if you aren't already on that listserv, I would encourage you to request to join it. So by emailing studyaway@uga.edu, you can gain access to that listserv and those updates. Thank you so much for your attention. We at Global Education here at UGA are really excited that you're interested in proposing a program and hope that this information was helpful. If you do have any questions, please feel free to reach out at studyaway@uga.edu. Visit our website for more information at studyaway.uga.edu or give us a phone call. We're always happy to help.